Welcome to ABA Foundations training. Sharif Consulting. First slide is all about Applied Behavior Analysis, or ABA. Applied Behavior Analysis, or ABA. It was founded in the 1960s by two UCLA psychologists, Ivar Lovaas and Robert Kogel. Based on B.F. Skinner's radical behaviorism, it focuses on understanding and analyzing behavior through measurable actions. It was also created to improve the lives of children with autism and their families, and was created to decrease challenging behaviors and support individuals with ASD or autism spectrum disorder in developing their ability to communicate. The core goals of this program are reduce challenging behaviors, enhance communication skills, promote independence, and improve quality of life. It also has been helpful for those with other neurodevelopmental disorders and has been used to support weight loss, marketing, animal training, and so much more. Such behaviors can include academic, social, communication, and daily living skills. Any skill that will enhance the independence or quality of life for the individual. Next slide is about the basic principles of ABA. There are two main variables in ABA that must be understood, and they are antecedents and consequences. Antecedents are events that happen right before a behavior takes place, and consequences are the event that follows the behavior. It can either be positive or negative. In ABA, you will see something called the three-term contingency, which looks like the following: antecedent, behavior, and consequence. Systematic use of antecedents and consequences helps maintain behavior, increase desired behavior, and decrease undesired behavior. This is how learning and behavior change will occur. Antecedents are important to understand as they support learners in skill acquisition and decreasing problem behaviors. Example for this is when Tommy is told, "Put on your shoes," he then puts on his shoes. The demand to put on his shoes is the antecedent. This demand is the event before the behavior. Tommy putting on his shoes is the behavior. How to modify antecedents for success. Antecedents can be altered in several ways to support learning. If antecedents are properly altered, success will be more likely. For example, if Tommy is told to clean his room and he gets overwhelmed by cleaning his room, we can break down the cleaning for him. Instead of the antecedent being clean your room, it can be pick up 5 toys or clean your room for 2 minutes. When considering antecedents, practitioners can alter the environment or 7 instructional material to help increase the likelihood of learner success while decreasing the likelihood of challenging behaviors. These are called antecedent interventions. Understanding consequences in ABA. Consequences are events that occur after behavior to either increase the frequency of that behavior, maintain the behavior, or decrease the frequency of the behavior. It is also known as consequence interventions. It can also include natural consequences. Consequence interventions are used to shape behavior effectively. The most effective consequence, and the one we will use most often, is reinforcement. Reinforcement is the most effective consequence. It is provided after a behavior to increase the future frequency of the targeted behavior. Example of positive reinforcement. Tommy is told, "Put on your shoes." Tommy independently puts on his shoes, and then the practitioner says, "Good job, Tommy," and provides Tommy with a piece of his favorite candy. Tommy receiving social praise and a piece of his favorite candy is the consequence of positive reinforcement. Discriminative stimulus, or SD in ABA, is a stimulus that signals reinforcement is available. That is, in the presence of the stimulus, if a certain response occurs, then the individual will get reinforced. If the stimulus is not present, then a response will not be reinforced. An SD is typically the antecedent. Furthermore, the SD is typically the demand being placed on a learner. For example, the SD to answer a telephone is the phone ringing with the reinforcement being talking to the person who called. But when the phone does not ring and we answer, no one will be there for us to talk to, so there is no reinforcement placed. The SD is typically the demand being placed on a learner. For example, if you state to a learner, "Show me the marker," the statement "show me the marker" is the SD. Premack principle is another basic principle in ABA that you should understand. This principle states that more probable behaviors, or high probability behaviors can be used as reinforcement for less probable or low probability behaviors. It is also known as the relativity theory of reinforcement. Example of this is asking a child to clean their room, which is the low probable behavior before they can have access to their video game, which is the high probable behavior. Goals will typically lie in one of three categories. First is acquisition. These are skills a learner is currently working on mastering and are not yet in their repertoire. Second is maintenance. These are the skills the learner has mastered and are in their repertoire. Additionally, maintenance means the learner's ability to continue to successfully perform a skill after reinforcement and the teaching procedure has been removed. Third is generalization. This means practitioners are supporting learners with learning how to use that skill across different settings, environments, people, and context. Next slide is about pairing and ABA. What is pairing and why it matters? Pairing is when you focus on building a relationship with a client. You do this by engaging in their preferred activities without placing demands. Purpose of pairing. It creates a safe, fun, and trusting environment, increases likelihood of success, and reduces challenging behaviors, and also establishes the practitioner as a reinforcer associated with fun, safety, and support. How to pair effectively. Pairing should be a consistent goal for the practitioner throughout the session. You began the session with pairing. You pair throughout the session by engaging in clients' reinforcers with them. Engage in preferred activities, validate feelings, and provide support. Pairing after a challenging behavior allows the learner the chance to see that their challenging behavior does not impact how the practitioner views them and helps mend any damage that took place during the challenging behavior. Practitioners make mistakes too, so make sure you apologize and take the steps necessary to mend the damage you caused as well. Avoid demands, instructions, or criticism during pairing. If you are playing toys with a learner, narrate the play in an enthusiastic tone. You should praise their positive behaviors and ignore their negative ones and even imitate their play. Let the learner be your guide during pairing. During pairing, we do what the learner wants to do. We do not do what the learner wants to do and redirect if they want to engage in something inappropriate or unsafe. Sometimes during pairing, we may have to contrive a learner's motivation or interest, meaning sometimes learners may not always make it obvious to us that they may want to do during pairing and what they find interesting. So, we must figure that out for ourselves, or we may have to create motivation. Pairing with different learners. In ABA, it said we do not ask questions when pairing, and this is true with younger learners or learners who are unable to communicate. This is not necessarily true with older learners, such as teenagers and adults, or learners who know how to communicate well. For young and nonverbal learners, you should avoid questions and focus on engaging with them. For older and verbal learners, you may ask them get-to-know-you questions during pairing, such as, what is your favorite color? What kind of music or hobbies you enjoy? Or how was your day or weekend? How to know when you are paired with a client. There are several ways to tell if a learner is paired with you. If you are paired with a client, they are most likely smiling, laughing, interacting with you, and appear to be having fun. They will be engaging with you via playing toys with you, conversating with you, providing eye contact, and sitting next to you. In this slide, we'll talk about reinforcement and reinforces in ABA. Reinforcement. Reinforcement is when you reward the learner with something they are motivated by when they correctly complete the required task or engage in the correct response. This supports a learner's ability to acquire skills. There are two main types of reinforcement. First is positive reinforcement. It is when something is added to increase the future frequency of a behavior. For example, when a learner independently completed a demand, they get social praise and time to play with their favorite toy. Second is negative reinforcement. It is when something is taken away to increase the future frequency of a behavior. For example, when the learner independently gets a good grade on a math test, the teacher may tell the learner they do not have to do their math homework for the day. Next is reinforcers. Reinforcers are given for the successful completion of a behavior. First is edible reinforcers. Edible reinforcers are items that an individual can eat. These reinforcers can be highly motivating but should not be the sole source of reinforcement. We should rarely use this form of reinforcement, and it should only be used when parents give us permission. It is essential to be aware of any food allergies or special diets before we use edibles. Second is sensory reinforcers. Sensory reinforcers involve tickles, sensory boards, squishes, brushing, and scratches. Third is tangible reinforcers. These reinforcers are objects or toys. Little Tommy is provided with a car after he completed 3 correct responses. Fourth is activity reinforcers. These reinforcers are when a learner can engage in their preferred activities. Little Tommy is allowed to complete a puzzle, play tag, or a board game after he completed the correct response. And last is social praise. These are reinforcers that involve vocal and non-vocal praise. Telling a learner, good job, or clapping for them when they get a correct response. Letting a learner know how well they are sitting by saying, good job sitting nicely, Tommy. Next will be the role of motivation when reinforcing. If the learner is not motivated by the reinforcer, they are likely to engage in the targeted behavior, and there will be a decreased chance the targeted behavior will increase in future frequency. Motivation can change at any time, so it is important that we always have several different reinforcers. To support a learner with feeling motivated to engage in desired behavior, we must choose reinforcers that they like and enjoy. Understanding motivation improves reinforcement effectiveness over time. Always remember that motivation drives reinforcement success. In this slide, we're going to talk about reinforcement schedule. Schedules of reinforcement. This is a rule that describes when reinforcement is provided. There are major types of schedules of reinforcement: non-contingent reinforcement, or NCR, and continuous reinforcement, or CSR. Non-contingent reinforcement, or NCR, is when reinforcement is provided without the expectation that a certain response must occur to be provided reinforcement. Continuous reinforcement, or CSR, reinforcement is provided after each occurrence of the targeted response. Next slide is all about punishment. Punishment in ABA. It's when punishers are added or something reinforcing is taken away or reduced to decrease the future frequency of a behavior. There are 2 types of punishment: positive and negative punishment. Positive punishment. This is when something is added to decrease the future frequency of a behavior. For example, a learner is given a reprimand when they hit their peers. Second is negative punishment. This is when something is being taken away or removed to decrease the future frequency of behaviors. For example, when a learner's mom takes away their video games because they hit their sister. There are types of appropriate punishment in ABA. When working with a learner, it is okay to take away items that may cause danger to the learner or those around them. If a learner is having a tough time listening to safety rules regarding playing a game, punishment can be used. Punishment can be used by telling the learner we can try playing or engaging in that activity again later when they are able to be safe. What are the appropriate punishments? Reprimands. Reprimands are typically vocal punishment, such as telling a child no or raising your voice. These should be used with caution because for learners whose function of behavior is attention-seeking, a reprimand can be reinforcing rather than punishing. Example is using verbal correction. When a learner is jumping on a table, we will say feet on the floor, or tables are for sitting. When a learner is running, we will say we use walking feet, instead of saying no, don't do that. We also want to avoid repeating reprimands several times. So, if the learner did not listen the first or second time, we should try something else. When using reprimands, we do not simply just say no or don't do that. We should be giving the learner their replacement behavior. Next is response blocking. This is when a provider focuses on preventing an undesired behavior from occurring. This is done by physically intervening as soon as the learner begins to engage in the behavior or exhibit signs they are about to engage in an unwanted behavior. Response blocking is most appropriate for managing and decreasing dangerous behaviors such as self-injurious behaviors, eloping, or aggression. For example, a provider can block elopement by standing in front of the door or prevent a learner from hitting another by stepping between them. What is inappropriate punishment? It is not okay to use punishment to cause harm or aversive control to a learner. Forms of punishment such as raising our voices at a learner are not okay. We cannot place our learners on timeout, in seclusion, in holds, or take away any of their rights or needs. Reinforcement is always the first step. Punishment is only a last resort and should not cause harm or aversive control. Next slide is language. What is language? Language is a system an individual uses to communicate with others to convey our thoughts and feelings. It also includes how words are created and put together, the meaning of those words, and how to apply language in different social situations. And it is basis of receptive and expressive language. Receptive language. It's an individual's ability to respond appropriately to others' verbal behavior and language. In more detailed terms, receptive language involves understanding information provided by another individual. This may include sounds, words, movements, gestures, symbols, and signs. Receptive language is typically acquired before expressive language. Examples of receptive language include individuals' ability to follow one-step instructions or identifying a picture when asked. Next is expressive language. It's an individual's ability to use verbal behavior and language to communicate their wants and needs. This can include pointing and gestures, speech-language devices or alternative communication AAC, PECS or picture exchange communication system, vocal language, and sign language. Through the acquisition of receptive and expressive language, individuals can learn how to have reciprocal conversation. Reciprocal conversations in its simplest terms are the act of back and forth communication between two or more individuals using verbal behavior or verbal language. This slide is about verbal operants. First is manding. Manding is an ABA term that means requesting. When an individual is manding, they are requesting for their wants or needs. Individuals can also mand for information via who, what, when, where, and why questions. Manding is an important skill to teach individuals because it supports individuals with language acquisition. Next is receptive ID. This is focusing on the learner identifying objects via pointing to or even giving you an item. It also supports navigation, language acquisition, and communication of wants and needs. Here are some common prompts often used in receptive ID. Show me, point to, or give me. For example, a teacher lays out a picture of a car, a dog, and cat in front of the learner and states, point to the dog. Then learner points to the dog. Next is receptive command. It teaches learners to follow instructions. It is essential for individuals to be successful in the classroom, socially, at home, in employment, and in other environments. We support individuals in learning to follow instructions by teaching them receptive commands. Receptive commands often come in the form of one-step and two-step instructions. These instructions can have more steps than two steps and may even include more complex instructions. An example of a one-step instruction is a teacher saying to a student, "Give me the scissors," and the student gives the teacher the scissors. An example of a two-step instruction would be a mother saying to her child, "Sit down," instruction 1, and "Put on your shoes," instruction 2. A three-step instruction would be a mother saying to her child, "Sit down," instruction 1, "Put on your shoes," instruction 2, and "Grab your coat," instruction 3. The goal is to have individuals comply with the instructions independently upon the first request. Next is vocal imitations or echoics. An echoic is also known as vocal imitations. Echoics are when a learner repeats the words of another individual. Vocal imitation programs are a wonderful way to support learners with language acquisition and support with teaching other verbal operants. Vocal imitation programs are often used with individuals who are demonstrating vocal language skills to increase those vocal skills. Your SD for this verbal operant will always be say, then the words you want the learner to say. Example interaction. Teacher says say hi, then learner says hi. Next is motor imitation. It's an individual's ability to mimic and reproduce the movements of another individual. There are two types of motor imitations. There is gross motor imitation and fine motor imitation. Gross motor imitation is an individual's ability to imitate large motions such as full body movements, waving your arm, and even jumping. Fine motor imitation focuses on more precise movements, such as playing an instrument, beating, or holding a pencil. Your SD for this verbal operant will always be do this followed by you, showing the motor movement you want the learner to engage in. Example interaction. Teacher says, do this, followed by clapping their hands, then learner claps their hands. Next one is tacting. Tacting is when a learner labels. This is also known as expressive ID. It's typically taught after a strongman repertoire is established. Your SD for this verbal operant will typically be, what is this? Example. Teacher holds up a picture of a cat and says, what is this? Then learner says cat. Next is intraverbals. It focuses on reciprocal conversation and fill-in-the-blank interactions. Intraverbals are typically taught once the learner has mastered manding and the ability to tact. Example, fill in the blank, teacher says twinkle twinkle little, then learner says star. Next is textual. Textual is a learner's ability to read. It is important to note that just because someone can read, this does not necessarily mean they understand what it means. You can focus on this verbal operant by having a learner read a book with you or practicing sight words with a learner. Example: teacher holds up a card with the word cat on it and states, "What does this say?" Then learner says cat. Next is transcript. Transcript is writing and spelling what is being spoken. It is also used for spelling words, writing names, or taking notes. Examples. Example 1, teacher says spell cat, then learner says C-A-T. Example 2, teacher says write your name, then learner writes down their name. Next is matching. 1 is matching identical items. It means matching an item to the same item. For example, a learner is given a picture of a cat and is expected to match it to the identical picture of that cat. Second is matching non-identical items. Matching non-identical items supports learners with generalization. For example, if a learner is given a picture of a cat and in front of the learner is a picture of a cat and a tiger, the learner will match the cat to the tiger. This is because they are both animals and are both types of cats. Your SD for this demand would typically be match then the item. Next is sorting. Sorting is an important skill to teach because it supports learners with understanding categorization. Categorization is the act of sorting and organizing objects or things into different groups by their attributes. Categorization is an important skill because it teaches learners how to understand similarities and differences. Your SD for this demand will be sort. Example: teacher hands the learner a messy pile of food items, school supplies, and animals. State sort. Learner sorts the items into 3 different piles: a pile of food, a pile of school supplies, and a pile of animals. Next is FFC, or feature, function, and class. The feature focuses on the learner being able to identify features of items or people. Features of a human are their hair and eye color, their height, and their body parts. Whereas features of a table would be the color, how tall and wide it is, and whether is it glass, wood, or another material. Function focuses on the purpose of the item or thing. A car's purpose or function is to drive, a pen to write, and a home's function is to live in it. The class focuses on the category an item is in. For example, the class of a cat is an animal. The class of a table is furniture. And the class of an apple is fruit or food. The SD will vary depending on if you are targeting FFC via receptive ID, point to blank, show me blank, or give me blank, or via tacting, tell me the one that is blank or which one is blank. Receptive ID feature example: teacher lays out a picture of red car, a blue mug, and a green house in front of the learner and states, point to the one that is green. Then learner points to the greenhouse. Example of tacting feature: teacher lays out a picture of red car, a blue mug, and a greenhouse in front of the learner and states, tell me the one that is green. Learner says, the house. Example of receptive ID function: teacher lays out a picture of a car, a TV, and a pen and states, point to the one you write with. Then learner points to the pen. Example of tacting function: teacher lays out a picture of a car, a TV, and a pen and states, tell me the one that drives. Then learner says, the car. Example of receptive ID class: teacher lays out a picture of a dog, a pen, and a table and states, point to the one that is furniture. Then learner points to the table. Example of tacting class: teacher lays out a picture of a dog, a pen, and a table and states, tell me the one that is furniture. Then learner says, the table. Other ways to teach in ABA: accepting denied access, practicing waiting, working on labeling emotions, practicing expressing their emotions, being able to remain on task, behavior reduction goals. You may teach them safety skills, play skills, and social skills such as problem solving. Next is task analysis. Next is task analysis in ABA. Task analysis is when a complex skill such as hand washing and shoe tying is broken down into smaller and simpler steps that support a learner in acquiring the skill. It is usually used for complex skills such as daily living skills and hygiene tasks. For example, for hand washing, the steps may be turn on the water, put your hands in the water to wet them, put a pump of soap in your hands, rub hands together for 15 to 20 seconds, rinse the soap of hands, turn off the water, dry hands with a paper towel, and last is throw paper towel in the trash. Next will be chaining methods. Total task analysis can be taught via chaining, prompting, or shaping. There are 3 main forms of chaining: forward chaining, backward chaining, and total task chaining. First is forward chaining. It is when the learner is being taught the first step of the chain and must complete the first step before accessing reinforcement. Second is backward chaining. It is when the teacher completes all the steps in the chain for the learner except the last step. The learner is required to complete the last step before accessing reinforcement. Third is total task chaining. It is when the learner is taught each step in the chain and is required to complete each step before accessing reinforcement. Regardless of which form of chaining is being used, prompting, shaping, and DTT may be used to support the learner with learning each step in the chain. Ensure to read the goal and ask the BCBA to ensure you are using the correct chaining procedure for your learner. In this slide, we're going to talk about mastery criteria. Mastery criteria. These are the criteria a learner must meet before we can master a targeted goal and to confidently say a learner has learned a targeted behavior and it is now in their repertoire. Typical criteria. A learner is required to engage in a targeted behavior in 80% of opportunities across 3 or 5 consecutive sessions. The purpose of mastery criteria is it confirms the learner has consistently acquired the skill and ensures behavior is part of the learner's repertoire. Key reminder, percentages and session requirements may vary. Always check each goal for specific mastery requirements. Next will be prompting. What is prompting? Prompts are instructions, gestures, demonstrations, touches, or other things that we arrange or do to increase the likelihood that learner will make correct responses. In other words, it is a specific form of assistance given by a practitioner before or as the learner attempts to complete a response. There are types of prompts in ABA, and these are full physical prompt, partial physical prompt, modeling, verbal prompt, gestural prompt, visual prompt, and independent prompt. First type of prompt is full physical prompt or hand over hand. This involves physically guiding a learner through the whole response via maneuvering their body parts to achieve the correct response. Example, helping a learner clap hands by bringing their hands together. Next is partial physical prompt. This involves physically guiding the learner through part of the response via maneuvering part of their body to achieve the correct response. Example, a learner is given the instruction clap hands. The learner moves their hands to begin clapping but does not do so. The practitioner might tap both learners' hands to prompt them to bring them together, and then the learner claps. Third is model prompt. This involves showing the learner how to complete the task via the practitioner, demonstrating or modeling how to complete the task. Example, a learner is given the instruction clap hands. The learner does not clap their hands, and the practitioner claps their hands to demonstrate the correct response. The learner will then see the practitioner demonstrating hand clapping, and then the learner will clap their hands. Next type of prompt is verbal prompt. This involves providing words to a learner to support them with completing the task. Example, a learner is shown a red ball and is asked, "What color is this?" The learner does not answer, and the practitioner provides a verbal prompt by saying red. The learner will then be able to answer that the ball is red. Next is gestural prompts. This involves utilizing a gesture such as pointing, looking, or nodding at something as a prompt for a learner. This does not involve touching the learner like a full or partial physical prompt. Example, a learner is asked point to the car from an array of 3 pictures. The learner does not answer, so the practitioner provides a prompt by pointing at the correct picture of a car. Next is visual prompt. This involves using visuals such as pictures, words, etc. to guide a learner to the correct response. Example, a learner is told to wash their hands. The learner does not respond. The practitioner then points to a picture of steps of hand washing to support the client with hand washing. Additional types of prompt. Positional prompts. This prompt is not shown in the chart but is a useful form of prompting. These are prompts in which you place the targeted item slightly closer to the client to support them in getting the right answer. Example, the teacher shows the learner 3 objects, a ball, a shoe, and an apple, and asks the learner, "Point to the one that you eat." The teacher places the apple closest to the learner, and the learner then points to the apple. Next is choice prompts. A choice prompt is when practitioners provide the learner with 2 or 3 answers to choose from to support them in making the correct response. For example, if a learner were asked if a peer walked up and kicked you, what would be the safest and best way to handle the problem? The practitioner would then say, "Would you kick them back, go tell a teacher, or walk away?" The learner will then hopefully choose one of the correct responses of walking away or telling a teacher. Next is how to prompt and fade. The chart shows prompts from most to least intrusive, with the most intrusive being the full physical prompt. The goal is to prompt using the least to most intrusive prompting. It is important to try and support a learner using the least intrusive forms of prompting to achieve independence faster and to decrease the likelihood of a learner becoming prompt dependent. Next is prompt dependence. It is when a learner waits for prompts to complete a task and struggles with completing it without prompts. Our goal is to support learners in becoming independent, and therefore we also prompt fade. Next is prompt fading. It's the act of decreasing the use of prompts to support a learner with increasing their independence. The goal is that eventually the learner will no longer need any prompts to complete the task. Example: teacher states, "Clap hands." Learner does not respond. Teacher states, "Clap hands," and then provides a full physical prompt. Learner claps hands with a full physical prompt. Teacher states, "Clap hands," and then provides a model prompt. Learner claps their hands. Teacher states, "Clap hands" with no prompts. Learner independently claps their hands. Next slide is about error correction and errorless teaching. Additional types of prompts. First is errorless teaching. Errorless teaching supports a client's learning by helping the client avoid errors. This is a fantastic way to increase the likelihood of mastery of a goal. In errorless teaching, you support the client by helping them avoid making errors during their learning process. This is done by stating your demand and then immediately prompting the learner. You will also use prompt fading when using errorless teaching. Example: teacher shows the learner a red pen and states, "What color is this?" The teacher then immediately provides a verbal prompt by stating red. Learner says red. Teacher shows the learner a red pen and states, "What color is this?" The teacher then immediately provides a partial verbal prompt by stating re. Learner says red. Teacher shows the learner a red pen and states, "What color is this?" No prompt is provided this time because we want to prompt fade. Learner says red. Errors are going to happen, and that is okay because it is a part of learning. But if we can prompt a client before they can error, we will increase their likelihood of mastery, and they will master that target sooner compared to if they were allowed to error. Errorless teaching is best used when a learner is first being introduced to a new skill or target. Error correction, in its simplest terms, error correction is a procedure where you correct a client when they completed a task incorrectly. Error correction is known to support a client with increasing their ability to learn new skills through the act of supporting them with correcting their mistakes. True error correction in ABA is exceedingly long and extensive. It can also be very aversive for many clients. The form of error correction that will be taught her is much less extensive and much less aversive. Practitioners must pay attention to learners' reaction, avoid shutting down or negative impact. Know when to move forward if errors persist. Use prompt fading as part of correction. How is error correction ran? Example 1, teacher has two toys in front of the client. One is a dog and the other is a car. Teacher states, "Show me the car," then learner points to the dog. Teacher runs error correct, says, "Show me the car," and immediately provides a full physical prompt, then learner points to the car. Teacher says, "Show me the car," and immediately provides a gesture prompt, then learner points to the car. Teacher says, "Show me the car," provides no prompts if learner has been successful with previous prompts, then learner points to the car. Teacher uses differential reinforcement and tries again. Example 2. The learner struggles with error correction. Teacher has two toys in front of the client. One is a dog and the other is a car. Teacher states, "Show me the car." Learner points to the dog. Teacher says, "Show me the car," and immediately provides a gesture prompt. Learner points to the car. Teacher uses differential reinforcement and tries again. Next slide is differential reinforcement. Differential reinforcement is when you reinforce a client differentially depending on their response. If a client completes the task without erroring or needing any prompts, then the learner will be reinforced at a greater level versus when they error or need prompting. Example, if a learner is instructed to clap and do so independently, they may be given a full minute with their reinforcer of choice. Ways a practitioner can differentially reinforce a learner is by providing more or less time with a preferred reinforcement, providing a learner with a less or more reinforcing item, or even giving a smaller piece of an item versus the whole piece. Example, the client is working for a shark. The client gets the answer wrong. You then either give the client 5 to 10 seconds with the shark or a less reinforcing item like a car. If the client gets the answer right, then you give them the shark for at least 45 seconds to a minute. Why it works? Encourages independence by making correct responses more rewarding. Can also reduce challenging behaviors by reinforcing alternative appropriate behaviors. For example, you will not reinforce a learner for yelling and crying when they want something. You will reinforce the alternative appropriate behavior of using functional communication to request for their wants and needs. Next slide is discrete trial training, or DTT. What is discrete trial training? It is focused on structured learning using mass trials. DTT can be a fantastic way to support learners by focusing on specific skills and targeting their goals. DTT allows for more focused learning, which allows for repetition and often leads to faster learning of critical skills. Benefits of DTT are faster learning of critical skills, decreases distractions, and provides a safe, structured environment. It also builds success in classroom, dining table, and similar settings. Implementation and tips for DT. Start by pairing environment and yourself with reinforcement. Provide reinforcement between trials. Begin with short sessions if learner finds DT aversive. Can be done at a table, floor, couch, even trampoline, not limited to one place. Discrete trial training breakdown. Step 1. Get all your needed materials to run the DTT session. Step 2. Ensure you have several different reinforcers the learner is motivated for. You can do this by assessing their preferences via holding up items or giving them time to play with toys or items and see which ones they play with most. Step 3. Transition to the designed DTT space. This should be a space that has little to no distractions around. Step 4. Reinforce the learner for transitioning and pair the learner with the environment and yourself. Step 5. After approximately 30 seconds to a minute of pairing, give the learner a 5-second countdown and take the reinforcer they are engaged in. Step 6. Assess learner's motivation by holding up 2 to 3 items and stating, "What are we working for?" or "What do you want?" If they reach for an item, point to it or even label it. That is them stating what they are motivated for. Do not give them the reinforcer yet. Step 7. The first trial you are going to place 1 or 2 demands they already have mastered. If they have no mastered targets, start with only one demand of a target they've been having an easier time with. Step 8. Appropriately reinforce the learner. Step 9. After reinforcement time is up, give a 5-second countdown, take the item or activity, and reassess motivation again as discussed in Step 6. Step 10. On the second trial. Place 3 demands depending on their reinforcement schedule. Make sure the first demand is always a mastered target. Step 11. Repeat steps 8 to 10 until you are done running DTT. As you continue with each trial, you can require more demands before reinforcing the learner if it is within their reinforcement schedule. Discrete trial training important tips. Before running trials, pair the learner with you and the environment. Ensure you have all your needed materials before beginning DTT. Always reassess learner motivation before starting trials. Ensure you have several different reinforcers with you before starting a DTT session, as motivation can change at any time. Let's talk about session timing and frequency for discrete trial training. For early learners, keep each session short and focused, about 1 to 5 minutes per session. For middle learners, you can increase that to 5 to 10 minutes. For advanced learners, aim for 10 to 15 minutes per session. And for your target goals, try to run these sessions about 1 to 2 times per hour to ensure enough practice without overwhelming the learner. Discrete trial training, important tips during trials. Reassess motivation before starting. Start each trial with 1 to 2 mastered targets. Vary verbal operants, avoid focusing on only 1 to 2 goals. When the learner is being taught a new skill or target, use errorless teaching, prompt fading, and differential reinforcement. Use error correction when learners make errors. Goals that are not appropriate to target during DTT include but is not limited to daily living skills, denied access, transitioning between environments other than when transitioning to and from the DTT environment, eating goals, peer play goals, and sharing goals. Now, let's go over the steps of discrete trial teaching. First, the teacher gains the child's attention to make sure they are ready to learn. Next, the instruction or stimulus is presented. This is where we give the direction or task. Then, we allow the child a moment to respond. This pause is important to give them processing time. From here, there are 2 possible outcomes. If the child gives a correct response, we immediately provide reinforcement to encourage the behavior. If the child gives an incorrect response, we apply error correction to guide them towards the right answer. After this, we have the inter-trial interval, a brief pause before starting the next trial. This sequence helps maintain structure, consistency, and clarity during learning. Next slide is about natural environment teaching, or NET. Natural environment teaching, or NET. It is a terrific way to teach learners skills while engaging in fun activities and increases their ability to generalize skills. It also focuses on generalization. Generalization is when a learner can appropriately apply skills they learned in one environment to other environments, even new and unfamiliar environments. For example, learning to self-regulate is an important skill in the school environment, at work, at home, in the community, and in many other environments. Another example is manding. It is important that we learn how to communicate our wants and needs across several environments and not just one. How NET works. NET can be used to teach several skills from language development, self-regulation, social skills, boundaries, and other important developmental and life skills. NET can be done by engaging in play with the learner or using other interests of the learner to build rapport and teach skills. For example, if a child likes Legos, a practitioner can use Legos to support the child with learning different skills, such as sharing, expressing feelings, teaching colors, propositions, and other skills. NET is often less informal and less structured, but the practitioner should ensure to maintain instructional control by being conscious of the environment and the learner's needs. It is important that practitioners understand their learners' learning styles, developmental levels, skill levels, and many other factors about the learner. This is important to understand because it guides a practitioner on when and how often it is appropriate to use DTT and/or NET with a learner. Here we have an overview of natural environment teaching, or NET. Next is incidental teaching. Incidental teaching is a form of NET when practitioners use naturally occurring incidents, situations, or events to provide the learners with learning opportunities. An example of this would be, if a learner needs to go to the bathroom, practitioners can take advantage of that naturally occurring incident to practice hand washing with a learner. If a learner has a goal of using healthy coping skills and they become upset during session, this is a naturally occurring incident that can be used to practice having them use their healthy coping skills and even practice communicating their feelings in developmentally appropriate ways.